All right, welcome everyone for a very special live episode of Welcome to the Winner Circle, our first ever. And I'm here with Maurice Thibodeau, Tracy Thibodeau, and my co-host Bianca Leger. And we're here to celebrate the 6th year of the I Am Festival, the 6th and final year for now. And we are going to trace the hero's journey that led to the creation and to the evolution and now the beautiful ending and new beginning of this festival. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. Yeah. It's great to be in your guys' energy.
Oh, sweet.
Absolutely. So we're going to start off with the ordinary world. Before this begun, this magic manifested, what did your lives look like before the creation of the I Am Festival?
I would say, typical, both corporate jobs. We were still finding community.
Yep.
What were our big side projects? I'm not sure if we had.
I don't think we had any. We had just moved out here a few years before, getting settled in. We were doing house concerts.
Young kids.
And we had little kids.
Yeah.
And that was our side project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 kids under 6, or like, I guess 5 years ago, they would have been under 11.
Yeah, and then that leads us to the call to adventure.
So what did that call to adventure look like for you?
In the terms of the creation of the I Am Festival.
Yeah, it's we had a friend over, and Keith McPherson. He had been here for a house concert, and we were just exploring the space, and he threw out the idea that more people need to experience this type of space, nature, and so he lobbed up the idea of, you should do a festival. And Maurice, being who Maurice is like, okay, let's talk about that. And so yeah, we brainstormed it and like started poking at like, what does the world need right now? What kind of festival would it be? And so the planning began like immediately after that night.
So often with the call to adventure, one hero has that intuition, that inner calling that are calling them to step beyond their known world and to venture into an unknown world, which for this conversation is that I Am Festival. Often a refusal of the call comes up. Was there any resistance? What did that look like? And how did you two overcome this resistance?
Great question.
Resistance. Going way back then. In the beginning, I'm not feeling resistance. It was honoring the call to create. I'm trying to think when, for me, the first resistance begun. It's not coming super clear, honestly.
I feel like together we encompass, like, because you're calling to go do things, I'm the resistance.
Yeah.
So when I say like he lobs this up, he's like yes, and I'm like, well, like, no. So I feel like there's a part of the journey that we're on this together, and we make up those parts of the journey together. So he has the calling and I am the resistance, and we have to navigate it together.
And if we navigate that to a yes, then it feels like we can do anything.
Yeah.
So that feels pretty true, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So you had people guiding you, like inspiring the festival. Were there any particular mentors that aided in the manifestation of year 1 of the festival?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I would first pay homage to the even very beginning of the little Castle Boys event that we held here.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us about that.
Mario was one of the Castle Boys, and he had the heart of vision, and through relationships came to create. And he watching that come to creation sparked a lot of possibilities, a lot of respect, a lot of like, wow, yeah, like that could have been something. And when one thing doesn't necessarily blossom, it still gives room for creation. So I actually look to him specifically as one of the very early mentors in this project.
there any that come to mind for you, Tracy, in terms of mentors that help you guys get this started?
I want to go to your dad.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I want to go to his dad is just like, why not? Oh, we can figure that out. We can figure that out. And so when things were, whatever was hard, he would just like, we can figure that out. So whether it was coming out to dig holes with Uncle Dave and like just getting things started, I was like, yeah, that's what you're doing. We can figure that out. So I'd call to him.
That's where, I totally resonate with the following the energy to create was the inspiration. That energy is hugely influenced by my dad.
Beautiful. So this brings us to crossing the threshold. You collectively said, yes, hell yeah, to the creation of the I Am Festival. What did year one look like? What did you learn from this first year?
For me, the hell yes was having exceptional and extreme faith and connection with Tracy and Keith. Knowing that, like, together as a group, that our hearts were in the right place, and that our commitment to, like, do it as best and as right as we could, there was no question of that. So I never felt alone. It was like, we can do this. So that was the most prominent for me.
And yourself, Tracy?
Just the importance of the team that we built up that first year that really like had from a Colette to the people that were a part of you bring people in who already know what to do.
Yes.
And you don't realize it until later, like, oh, I don't think we would have known that if we were just stumbling around. So yeah, I would say the team and how important it was to have the building team.
Year one was exciting. We had a lot of that initial excitement, birthing energy. I remember us on the whiteboard. I remember like the creative juices just totally flowing, and I remember the attraction. That was the core group, like friends of ours like Sean and Shannon, who've been part from the very beginning. They were attracted to the energy of creation and service, which was way larger than the actual thing. It wasn't necessarily they resonated with what we were building. They resonated with creation and service and love for us. And they're like, we're here to support you. I remember that feeling of wow, we're in this.
The momentum that comes from that, like, purpose is so clear and people just are all aligned with that purpose, and what it's going to accomplish, and being able to build around that team.
Amazing. And now let's fast forward a year later, and what do you recall from year two? What are your highlights from year two? Where did you improve on from year one, and what were some new challenges that you faced?
So year two we added, was it year two? No, it was year three we added family camp. No, year two we added family camp. So we expanded and kind of taking the template and expanding to families as well. And just, I think what we learned from that is being really careful about how far you span too fast. That would be something for me. We experimented, going bigger in ways, and learned from that.
I think this is just like, I won't say that. We forget kind of the pain of the past a lot of the times, and like stay in the joy of the present, the creation. So I think year two, I think it was smoother, but I don't know if it actually was.
Okay.
And I remember like the coming back together to community, like the crew that was there coming back together. Okay, we're doing this again. How can we do it better? I also remember expectations. I was like, oh, here it is. We can grow this. This mattered. And I noticed that the growth in my mind of what it could be and what it was, there was a huge gap in that. So I do remember like that was like, oh, there's still like there was a lot of learning of like what else do we need to figure out. So it still mattered, but I still remember it being like, okay, we don't have this figured out.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable, and that scared me.
So it's so fascinating, tracing all the years. So 2015, year 1, 2016, year 2, 2017, year 3. Tell us about year number 3.
Oh, that was epic. That's when we had attracted in a person who'd wanted to build a festival. So kudos to Ian and Journey. They'd been traveling around North America, and on Ian's bucket list was to build he wanted to create a festival. I'm like, man, do we have an opportunity for you?
Yes.
So they hunkered down here, stopped their travels, and he made this land. Him and the community, Frank, they like were out back for months just getting things like, that's how the campgrounds came to be, and this built up the ground from passion and love. And yeah, and so he was a huge part of like showing what happens when you have the time and space and energy to really commit to the creation. 2017 was a phenomenal year.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. The level of connection and inspiration, like when Tracy says, when there's space there, and the people that flow into it, the most special times. This was a dream container. This was a dream making container.
Yeah.
Where people could follow their dreams, find their dreams, and in many cases, we've got to witness dreams happen. And real, like it's actually, I dreamt this, I wanted this, and that happened again this year. Tracy was in tears as she witnessed it last night.
Yeah.
Powerful year, and I can feel the energy.
Yeah.
I'm sure you as well when they reflect back on that year 3.
Yeah. That was a powerful one.
It feels magical.
And undoubtedly, you rode that momentum from year 3 onto year 4. And year 4, I believe, was the year I first taught at the IM Festival, had the opportunity to teach. So that's a bit special year for me. Let's reflect on year 4 of the festival for y'all.
You go first, because I connect with the details, not the years.
I feel like year 4, we really just repeated. We didn't like focus on the programming. I think that's the year we went to 5 venues. Maybe it was 2017, but just trying to just take what we already knew and to do it again with just small tweaks. I feel like the programming was a big focus in that year, but not like 2018 wasn't like a leap. It was a dial.
Yeah, that feels true. Yeah, that feels totally true. I think was that also the year of like would that be getting close to our top numbers?
2019 was our year. Yeah, 2018 was growing, like, and then 2019 was the top numbers. Yeah.
Let's talk about that year, 2019 top numbers. What was that experience like? Seeing this idea, this spark in your heart flourish into that beautiful year, 2019.
I think for like you feel the frustration when there's the gap of like more people were because once they're here, it's like it speaks for itself. But there's it's just like it's not about the numbers as much as the impact when you can get more people out here to have that experience. And 2019 was the year where like it's finally catching momentum. It's been around long enough that people are like have heard about it, and now they're gonna come. And it's like, oh, I heard about that and I wanted to go. And 2019 felt like the year people were starting to come to be to check in on. I've been hearing about it for so many years, and this is my year.
For me, even in those years, I think I've always had a yin-yang experience. Whether or not 2019 was the right year, even with the energy and seeing it like, okay, almost there. I think I've always felt a weight of look at how much the people supporting it have put into it. And I think there's always been a weight on my heart when I've seen that and seen like some of the stresses and some of the amount of out. And they always they get the in from serving, but for me, especially knowing that they were at least feeling like they were serving
Our vision.
they're serving for, it felt like it serviced us. That was hard to receive, and particularly hard to receive. Like I feel the weight of it, like year over year over year, as like that. It was like, okay, is this is it making enough of a difference? So that question for me has been, I think, a pretty it's been a tingling awareness that I just want to call out, even in our best year.
Yeah.
And then comes 2020. Insert dark, ominous clouds in the background. COVID happens. COVID-19.
Yeah.
And there is no festival that year.
Nope.
Talk about that experience.
The word that comes up is disappointment. I remember being really geared up. Like, for me, it was I always just had the 5 years in my head. Commitment, 5 years. So this was year 4, I think, or that would have been 4. Geared up. We had new strategies. We had the Wellness Expo planned. We were going to be doing a party with the Wellness Expo. We're going to be doing new marketing things that we'd never done to expand the community, get it out there. And that was all planned. We canceled the party within 3 weeks of it to go.
Right. I forgot about that.
Road to IM, we'd started the marketing earlier than we had ever started it before.
Yeah, we were set.
It was okay, it was kind of together. Or I felt that new spark of hope or creation.
Yeah.
And then it was just
Yeah.
and
Well,
that crushing, it felt more like there was a whole bunch of inner personal stuff, just in terms of what does this mean?
Yeah.
Making decisions, and then how do we support this community?
Yep.
I felt the biggest pull of not doing enough. We had a platform, and so we put on some online free community events.
Yeah,
with Tim
you guys-
Barlow and I did a family
right.
Yeah.
movement class. Hey Tim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
me
we
too.
did. Right, we did at least 5 or 6 weeks in a row of that every Sunday.
Yep.
And that felt good. That mattered. That mattered.
Especially during that time when people were looking for connection, and that's what the community was building. And so to be able to fulfill that need for the community that felt special.
And I think you guys were able to step into that space because you had presence in the digital world and you're familiar with Zoom and technology through your other work.
Yeah.
So talk about that, how you was able to transition.
I remember that being a pretty easy transition. We're okay, we know how to do this. Let's throw it out there, see who shows up. And the presenter community like yourself, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
So it was totally just like the Rejuvenation Lounge, non-transactional, all in service. And so yeah, smooth transition, and it felt right. I also remember feeling some relief. Do you remember when we were okay, there's no festival this year?
I know.
And
Yeah.
we were hey,
Space.
we're going into a summer, and there's no festival this year. There was we've got some space.
Yeah.
And that I remember that felt good.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was really
It was the first noticing of how much the project has been a part of our world. Because when it wasn't there, it was oh, that's what things could be like without this project. And it's there's this contradiction you have, because you're but I want it, but the space is something that we don't have when we have it.
Yeah, you guys work so hard and commit so much time and effort and energy in the creation of this festival. This is a year-long process. And now you have all this space. What did you do with that space?
What'd you do, hun?
Oh well, this was also at a time of transition year, career transition year-ish for me. So I was in high creation mode with that. I created a new life inventory assessment, a product to help people better their lives. I poured a ton of energy into that. So that creative energy went to other places that were actually really, really needed. When I look back at what I've created over the last 3 years, pardon me,
Let it out, then let it out.
it's been phenomenal. There's been a lot of new creation in that space.
Beautiful.
So new creation, and then I remember more the next summer, if segue to the next year.
Yeah.
Um,
2021.
2021, where we still had a festival, but it was only 5 weeks of planning. Like, it's like we had space, and then I remember how many good times we had in this backyard.
It was great.
Which we haven't, like this
I
year.
haven't been in the water.
This year, like we've set that up. We haven't sat in it once. I'm pointing to like one of our
Outdoor
little
living
spots.
spaces.
Beautiful out here.
We haven't sat in it once. The year before, like tons of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we outdoor concerts on the pond and friends over. So I feel like that year we really got to lean into more community and socialization.
Yeah.
What was the last thing I wanted to say? So we did it in 5 weeks. So it didn't take up the whole, like, it was just like, we can do this, 100 people, let's just do it.
Yeah.
So it was hectic, but it was
Yeah.
like less like
The constraints of the pandemic gave us a container to like work inside of, and so it's like, oh well, it can't be big, and there's going to be a group of people who aren't ready to go. So like our audience is shifting and the thing. So let's just do what we can to create a space for those who are ready for it, and they can step into it and like low expectation of what it's not going for the big thing or like the whole shebang. It's just like let's just create a container for people because they need it.
Yeah.
They need it.
So I was given constraints as creative director, that
Poor
we
Sean.
would only do one venue. So I asked if we could do we'll do two. We'll do something at Center Camp. And I didn't totally intend it to be this way, but I realized that was kind of like my creative self creating a wormhole. To that's when we experimented with the Restful Rejuvenation Lounge.
Yeah.
That was created in that year because we weren't going to do 6 venues. We were just going to do one. Ended up being 2, but the second one had all these little pillars. It's like, well, it's just one venue. It's just Center Camp.
Yeah.
But with all these service providers coming, and I had some experiences in between, so that's when the Rejuvenation Lounge was born.
Which is back for this year.
Yes.
Which on the first day on the opening ceremony, you announced that you'll both be stepping away. We'll talk about that decision later, but let's just talk about this final year. How has these last 3 days been for you, and just the planning coming up to it? Yeah, so much work has gone into this.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. Like everything we do is like, oh, this is the end of this chapter. So that's got like, the sadness as well as like, oh, and what that means is what's next, or what when you create space, what's going to happen. So there's excitement and just like, again, seeing the impact that like, it's like, and this matters, like no regrets, no, like, if nothing else, more resonance with the importance of this type of thing happening. It's been this weekend has been really quite the roller coaster.
Yeah.
For me, leading up, it was we've for at least the last little 3 years, I would say we kind of revisit this decision. So it wasn't a new conversation. This year it had the most attachment, or the most it feels like it's time. And for me, probably a lot of that heaviness that I've felt in other years about hey, it doesn't feel like it's making sense, to start to actually act on it and move towards a decision. I usually would just resist that and be like, yeah, no, we're not going to quit. And now, as I opened up acceptance to that, and then we moved to a decision fairly quickly, I've definitely had times of pretty heavy emotional processing. And after that emotional processing, it feels really resonant. It feels like this feels right. It feels like right timing. I feel proud. I feel like really able to stand in for the team and say, guys, look what we created. We did this. We made a hack. We did that. That doesn't mean that it has to release attachment from the thing. And it becomes part of our identity, right? So to release part of our identity with it, that's part of the process. And that's not complete yet. That's still happening.
Yeah.
Like after this year, it'll be the thing that we did once.
Yeah.
You know, not the thing that we do.
That's absolutely beautiful. Let's take a moment maybe and think about the people who helped along the way. The allies, the helpers.
Yeah.
Who were they, and what were your main takeaways from these people?
I had never, I hadn't had the experience of community coming together like this, or like doing things to give without expectation. Maurice had been and experienced it with like the camps that happen at Burning Man, where you get to see the people create or creation and to contribute to a broader vision. And I never experienced that. And as people were coming and they're building, I'm like what, or they're bringing things from other festivals to come as their final resting place, or they just want to go create the bird sanctuary. They had this idea and they're coming in with their rented trailers and all the materials they bought themselves from Home Depot to go build. It's just like you see this community coming together, and there's so many people. The list is so long.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it does it justice. Like we've named a few already along the way, and I noticed like
There's like, but this
almost
person.
an injustice to start naming. So I'm like holding space for the so many people that have come, and it's come in waves. Like the right person will show up, like a lot of people at the right time give like an abundance of their life, and then flow out. I think there's a lesson in that. Actually, I really do. The level of community connection, co-creation, I think it really speaks to when people get together towards a united goal, a united vision, and they rally, and it's hard work, and some of it's crappy, and some of it's amazing. You go through that whole emotional wave together. That's special. That's what teams are built off of.
Yeah.
That's what communities are built off of. So we got to be in that sauce.
Yeah.
So I feel really, I feel honored. I feel humbled to have experienced that, and I also feel supported. Like when we told a lot of the people that it was just all support. They got it.
Yeah.
They were just like, hey, we get it.
Yeah.
We got you.
Yeah.
So many great insights shared so far on this conversation, but then also on our individual episodes. Bianca and I spoke to Tracy a few months back, and Maurice, you and I had an episode recording. And I recommend anyone listening along that want to tune in for some more gold, check those out. But let's talk about your greatest personal insight learned from these past 6 years plus of leading the I Am community. Tracy and Maurice, your individual personal insights, your greatest personal insight. Let's keep it at one if we can, from this time, from year one to now. Learned from leading the I Am community.
One.
Yeah. The word that comes up for me is evolution, evolutionary purpose. The idea that like there's this progress toward that attracts, and it attracts the right people at the right time, and like things grow at the right speed, and like the ebbs and flows are all what has to be, and to try not to resist it in fear. I think fear throughout this process has been one of my primary, because it's different and scary, and it's really challenged me to okay, and it will be okay. It will be okay. And then it is, and people fill in the gaps, and things happen, and it just works out when you just know why you're doing it. So really checking that fear and recognizing, like, is it serving? Is it serving, or is it something that, like, actually probably seen this before and it's gonna be okay?
For me, it's trust. Like when as far as a personal insight, and one of the things that I've grown from this whole experience is to trust in who I am, and that there's a ton of people around that are there to witness me and support me and love me, and the honor it is to create a container of trust for others and to watch how that how that creates a container of transformation. And that's what this was all about. I went through that journey personally, so it's like every day of this festival I go through that in different waves, in different levels, and I feel it's been a full gift of personal growth, which has impacted everything in my life, and that is the same gift and the same reason why we behind the inspiration of doing it. So I don't know if that's an insight or not, but it's
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's talk about that transformation. How were you both individually transformed from this experience and as partners?
I feel like transformed is the end, and I think it's like still going. So transforming, being around the community, definitely, like, it just offers so much exploration. Seeing the support and what is available and that you can make available for others, and I'm still on my own transformational journey. I don't. When I think of transformed, I get a little stuck because it's like, well, I'm still transforming. I'm still in my chrysalis. My metamorphosis is still happening.
Yeah, if I think of transformation as a continuous cycle with lots of layers, this experience has transformed and impacted my healing path in a major way. What I know about the body, what I've been exposed to, about what healing is, and all the different approaches to it. It's transformed my career in terms of moving into wellness and personal transformation. I think moving more deeply into purpose. That feels really true. Yeah. It's been a lot.
Yeah, there's been a lot in those years. There's been a lot. And as partners, it's like we've had like ups and downs as a team.
Sure.
And just to be able to see what you're capable of when you are strong, and what gets in the way when we're not strong as a team. It speaks to so many different parts of life, right? So I think we just have gotten better at coming back together faster and rebuilding the team.
Absolutely.
when it's not working, when it's dysfunctional.
Every relationship every relationship's going to have those ebbs and flows, and then you throw in a major project like this, and big emotions.
Big emotions,
and high sensitivity. You're gonna, like, the waves can come and go. And
recipe for disaster.
I love the way I love the way you described it, and like those still exist, but I think we've gotten better at in identifying. Oh, this is what that is. At supporting each other and getting it done. So it stretched us and been part of our journey as a couple.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the end / the beginning. Dots. You're stepping away. Why this decision? What's in store for you both now? And what you envision for the I Am community moving forward?
Wow, that's a great question. to move to a decision. The external elements are both realizing, like, you heard the story, so it's like, hey, we had glimpses of what space means, and having our daughter, 16-year-old daughter, move out this year. It's like time is short. Had a whole bunch of universal reminders that time is so short with our kids. And then career-wise for me, I see myself and own myself as a creative energy and a creative person. And I also know that bucket has it's so big with all the other things. So taking that creative energy out and realizing at this time in my life, it needs to be put towards something that's gonna, like, sustainability. Like, in a word, why sustainability? 5 years and +1, give it an extra. You're still not sustainable. Something's missing. I don't know what it is. I don't have to know. It could be the model. It could be the location. Maybe we're doing it wrong. Maybe, who knows? I go through a whole list of things that I would love to be doing better, or have done already. It's time to, like, let those question marks just be. It's hard. As an entrepreneur that feels like I can look at each one, write down the answer that I feel is pretty right, and go after it. It's hard, but I'm at peace with it. That's the why for me.
And Tracy, what's in store for you both now?
Who knows? The things were filling up pretty fast already before this decision. My work has changed. My career has changed a lot, so it requires more of my brain than it did previously. So that's filling up, and yeah, you create space, and you bring someone with a why not attitude, and you don't know for sure, but there's faith that things happen perfectly on time. We do know there'll be more time with our girls as they're growing up, and that just feels like short term. That's the most important thing.
Beautiful. And what do you guys envision for the IM community moving forward?
Well, I think we've experienced, we call the IM effect. The community continues. It's not like we're a container that begins, to create safe spaces for people to connect and bond, and then those bonds don't end. We've seen that. We've seen that in relationships that have turned into marriages. We've seen that in like big groups that have formed.
Yeah, I'm excited about the possibility, because we have just been a container for the community, and we laid out possibility and people have experienced it, and then like I am effect is just really profound. So it could be anything. I think that it could be anything.
And there's room. Like we would both we've talked about, would love to play a mentor role or to support someone or a group so it could rebirth. There's a template here, so it could rebirth. For me, my sage feels, this could be sage, it could be my protecting myself from thinking that I just failed, I'm not sure. But it feels like sage, because we did a lot of more things right than wrong. That new group going, my sage advice, my first mentor sage advice is, what are we going to do different? What are you going to do? What are you going to do different? And how can I support you to make this even better? And like, I wouldn't want it to start from year one. It's like, we've got 6 years into this. There's something there, but something should change in the equation. And that would be my first sage advice to someone taking on. What's that change going to be? And why? What's your belief in it? Because that spirit has to be there, and that commitment has to drive it. Because otherwise, it's a beautiful idea and a beautiful experience, but it takes a lot.
And that brings us to our final question. In the individual interviews, we have a similar question. We altered it a little bit. Bianca, you want to go?
Yeah, so in 3 words or a phrase, how would you describe the experience of the I Am Festival?
The experience of the festival itself.
Yeah.
Or
Or the community.
How would you
Yes.
describe the I Am
Let's talk
community?
about the
In
community.
3 words or a phrase,
Oh.
how will you describe the I Am community, which will live on long after today?
Mm-hmm.
Love, vulnerability, and connection.
Love, vulnerability, and connection. And Tracy, your 3 words to describe the I Am community.
I'd say transformational, belonging, and love.
I feel that. And to close, your last words. The I Am community. Last. Tuning in.
You don't do
Or
that.
your words for now.
Yeah, I reject your question. I'm gonna go in the water.
Yeah, take a plunge. Well, isn't that what it's all about? Doing
Yeah.
something outside of your comfort zone, following your heart, taking that leap. Maybe we should just flip our chairs. I don't know. But wow.
Actually, it's easy. Pride.
Yeah.
For me, it's pride, and I say that with resonance, and with a whole hey, for I Am communities where that you said, wow, look at guys,
Look what we did.
folks,
Yes.
look what we created.
Oh yeah.
Look at the beauty, look at the love, look at the vulnerability, look at the growth. You can see it.
Oh
We-
totally.
We've
You
seen
feel it.
we've seen musicians come on stage first time being on the big
Oh,
and then they grow and
4 years later, they're on the stage, and you're like, whoa, like rock star. Like,
and we've seen practitioners. It's like, oh, that doesn't sound like the first time I heard it. Right? It's been 6 years. They've been mastering their craft for 6 more years.
And Tracy, your last words for the I Am community.
yeah, I think it's just like humbling gratitude humbling gratitude, getting to watch what the connections that can form, and you just get this faith in people and what can happen when people just look at each other and, with a little more love. So I'm really excited for what the community moves forward with. It'll be amazing.
Well, on behalf of the community, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I love you. And I love you, I Am community. And I can't wait to see what's in store for us all. To close our episodes digitally, we bring it in for a digital fist bump. Boom. But we're here in person, so we're hugging it out.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you.